Hello and welcome to another victory edition of the HLS Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Ritter. You can call me ND Tex. And folks, remember to subscribe over at Apple Podcasts or wherever you happen to get your podcast feeds from. Also, you can always join us live here on twitch.tv/HerLoyalSons. Come on over, give us a follow, get an alert for when we start recording. You can join us in Discord. That is our live chat server, herloyalsons.com/Discord. And of course, you can always find us on our home over at herloyalsons.com. And with that, I bring to you Shane. Shane, how are you doing this Sunday morning?
About 56 points better than I was last.
Was very nice. And it was something this week was what, Eddie and I talked about it. Shane and I talked about it. It was set up to be a boring week of football, which meant that insane stuff was going to happen. So There's going to be a little bit more college football national news in general and scoreboard because there's a lot to talk about there. We will definitely have a lot of time. We will break open the book when it comes to Wake Forest and Notre Dame because that was a lot of fun Saturday. And I tell you what, we are now, Shane, I say the home of the most accurate way to preview and predict a football game because that sim damn near laid out exactly how that game went.
Yeah, it was 69-24.
Yeah,
and Ian destroyed Wake Forest all by himself in the sim. Yeah, it was pretty much almost the exact result, just shy of a couple of touchdowns.
Pretty much, and Notre Dame nearly had 700 yards in that sim, and they had over 700 yards yesterday. But we'll get into all that. First, a couple of notes. One. This isn't so much news. I mean, obviously, I think the Venn diagram. Thank you for the follow, Politic9. The Venn diagram for our show and the Solid Verbal, I think, may be a solid circle, if not almost completely overlapping. And I want to give a shout out to Ty Hildebrandt, who's got I happened to see on Twitter when all the college football stuff was going on, I think sometime last night as the games were winding down, that he wasn't going to be recording his show today as he typically does with Dan Rubenstein because Solid Wife Kate has some family health issues. Her dad is sick, so he's there with the family. So Ty's somebody that's helped me out with Extra Life, which is ongoing right now that I'm doing. So definitely want to give a hat tip. Thoughts and prayers with you and your family, man. Take care of everybody because this dumb sport's going to be here when you get back. So hope everything ends up turning out okay. So with that all being said, Shane, do you just want to go ahead and dive straight into this and get to some scores?
Yeah, there's a lot of insanity. We might as well get through.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's start with what was, I have to say, the most entertaining game all day. It was what we expected to be the most entertaining game all day, and that is number 7 Stanford escaping Azen, number 20 Oregon, or Autzen, not Azen. What am I doing? Already off to a good start. But yeah, this game, it looked like Oregon was going to be in complete control, and the story ended up being Oregon miscues, kind of triggered after what looked like a touchdown for sure, ended up getting reversed. Said that the runner crossed the pylon out of bounds. The ball wasn't, didn't have that little hand to stick it inside. And then all of a sudden, snap over the head, Stanford scores. More miscues for Oregon. Stanford ends up coming back. Oregon still has a chance to run the clock out at the end of the game. But Oregon does the one thing you cannot do. They fumble the ball while trying to run up the clock.
Idiots doing idiot things because they're idiots.
Stanford ends up coming back and winning this one. I forgot to mark that it was an OT, but it was an OT that they win this one, 38-31. And the craziest thing, Shane, Justin Herbert for Oregon had 2 incompletions all game long, and they still lost.
All game. Yeah, I mean, it was... So Stanford had no business getting back into this game. I mean, it was, I believe it was like 24-7 heading into the third quarter. Really in the third quarter, and then Stanford kind of came back to erase that 17-point deficit. They erased 14 of it heading into the fourth quarter, so they were only down to 3. And then essentially Oregon fell apart in the fourth quarter. They had every opportunity. It was down to the point where they had almost 2 minutes left in the game, and all they had to do was manage the clock. But like you said, they fumbled the ball. I, of course, benefited from this greatly because right at the beginning of the fourth quarter, Stanford was plus 1,500 to win this game, so I just said thank you. I'll take money. Um,
15 to
then,
1 odds paying off. I mean, good
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, so I took it, and it ended up paying out like crazy. But yeah, Oregon, even in overtime, Stanford. First of all, the overtime touchdown catch by Stanford was a thing of insanity. He touches the ball midair between two defenders to himself. He just kind of gives it to himself in the end zone, and it was nuts. It was insane. And then Oregon turns the ball over with their possession, and that was that.
Yeah, and I mean, the story as far as Stanford and the offense goes for them, it's been about the same story. Love, mostly contained, has 19 carries for 89 yards. His longest, only 22 yards. So it's all up to KJ Costello, and he's been willing to do more than enough to get Stanford going. 19 for 26, 327 yards, and 3 touchdowns for him in this one. And I tell you what, it was almost like watching the Notre Dame nightmare last season, because there's a lot of seam routes, a lot of tight ends just hanging around there, and you're like, holy shit, please just cover him for the love of God.
Stanford, come on.
Yeah, but so it's going to be definitely a top 10 matchup. All eyes going to be on Notre Dame once again. For Stanford, I mean, I went between feeling good about Notre Dame's chances to, man, Shaw's just got some kind of voodoo devil-ass magic going on right now, to where, I thought Oregon was going to run away with this in a laughter, and all of a sudden now we're talking about how Shaw, kind of lucked into a win here. But to be fair, it's easy to luck into a win when only one team's making mistakes and you're not the team making mistakes.
Yes, but in terms of his voodoo magic, I can't imagine he's going to have the same amount at his disposal after using all of this allocation this week.
You would hope. You would hope.
I honestly, I know it's a top 10 matchup, and I know we'll preview it later in the week, but I feel like I still feel pretty good about that matchup.
Yeah.
There's something fraudulent about Stanford, really about the Pac-12, that gives me a little bit of confidence. That's kind of why, but we'll get into that later in the week.
Yeah, and we'll also loop back around to the Pac-12 a little bit later. We're going to get into one more game before we get into the crazy upsets, because we really haven't talked about Alabama on these recap shows yet. And I'm mentioning them here not because they were playing the Aggies, not because they didn't cover, but because this is finally the first time I was actually able to really watch Alabama, whistle to whistle for an entire game. And my God, I even said on Twitter, they're like your NCAA dynasty team when you're in year 10. You're just getting every good player, and you're gonna beat every team comfortably after a while. 45-23 your final. The only reason it was that quote unquote close was because of Kellen Mond, who really, really impressed me. 18 carries for 98 yards. He was the rushing offense, had a touchdown. In the passing game, however, 16 for 33, 196, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And Tua Tagovailoa, it's not fair that Alabama has him. 22 for 30, 387 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a rushing TD. Ooh, goodness gracious.
There's to me this whole season, and this is the struggle I'm experiencing, because I have to remind myself of this. Is like, I get the sense, or at least I have a good feeling, that Notre Dame could do something special with this season, so long as they clear the next 2 hurdles, right?
Right.
And I keep thinking, like, man, like they could make the playoff, and they could be in the national discussion, and maybe that could propel this program into a couple of years of prosperity. And then I look at the Alabama scores, and I think, what the fuck's the point?
Because they really look. This is. And I actually got into Papa Alpha Kilo. We were going back and forth on Twitter. He said, I would rather. He says, I'm almost wanting Notre Dame to miss the playoff just to not have to deal with this murder machine. And, I'm like, well, I want to see it just out of curiosity, even though I know how it's going to end. And that's really, I know it's still early in the season. There's a lot that can happen, and there will be a lot more film on Alabama. But right now, they can even kick field goals now, Shane. So, they're all kinds of dangerous.
They're actually complete. It's terrifying.
Yeah. So they are now. I hate Alabama. I have to with my family having Auburn ties, but damn if they're not a fun football team to watch. It is fun to watch excellence like that, and man, absolutely insane. All right. Well, you were talking about a couple hurdles, Shane. Do you want to talk about one of those hurdles that might have just been kicked the hell over?
A little bit, yeah.
That Bud Foster defense giving up 49 points to that powerhouse. Checking my notes here. Old Dominion.
Winless at the time. Old Dominion.
They went on, and this is so weird. You go on the road to Old Dominion, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense scheduling-wise, but okay. You probably thought this was an easy win. But 49-35 your final. The Monarchs, Shane, were a 28.5-point underdog at home.
Mm-hmm.
And they covered by 14.
I flirted with that line, and I was like, I don't know.
It's like Old Dominion. I could not tell you a single player on their roster.
Not one.
Yeah, and even if I knew the starting quarterback, it wouldn't have mattered because Blake LaRussa has to come off the bench early in this one, and all he does is this was the week of the backup too. All he did was go 30 for 49, 495 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jeremy Cox at running back runs for 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then to add insult to literal injury, Virginia Tech has lost their starting quarterback. Josh Jackson looked like he had a Zaire ankle snap moment. He ends up back on the sideline with a boot. So this could not have gone worse for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, damn. First of all, I didn't get to see most of this game, but I just kind of followed the game trackers or game casts or what have you, and the constant Twitter updates. But if you're Virginia Tech now, like what do you do? Like what do you do from here? Like not only were you exposed on your lack of execution on both sides of the ball, and now that film is just out there, but then on top of that, you lost your starting quarterback to, I'm guessing, not like he'll be back in a week and a half to play against Notre Dame kind of injury.
Oh no, he's going to be lucky to play this season. Is what it looks like.
So now, what do you think? Like, as Justin Fuente has to answer to all of this stuff, and now has to continue to keep this ship afloat. And mind you, Virginia Tech already had enough attrition in the offseason to kind of make it caused questions, but those seem to be answered, and those seem to be handled very well the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. But now those things will start to rear their head again, because now you start to wonder, okay, now the captain of the ship is gone and half of the crew isn't here. So what do we do now? You know? So that's going to be what we have to see of Virginia Tech moving forward. And then in 2 weeks, I was concerned about this game. I don't think I'm as concerned anymore.
Well, I'm so concerned with it in terms of this is going to be the toughest road environment Notre Dame will play in all season long.
Well, Blacksburg is nuts.
Yeah, and Virginia Tech is going to need a way to really try to, like you said, Shane, the ship is missing its captain, it's missing half the crew, so now Fuente's got to rally the troops somehow, and Notre Dame at home would be a perfect way to do it, because Notre Dame, even if they lose to Stanford, is still going to be rolling in as a top 15 team, I would say, at the very least, unless Stanford, God forbid, just embarrasses Notre Dame. But that's really what I'm looking at here is that, Virginia Tech will have that moment, and they're going to need a rebound in the worst way. But this is also, to say, for everything that we talk about here, because this chaos week happened because Virginia Tech's a prime example. Crowned top 15 team after they embarrassed Florida State. Florida State finally got off, finally won a game against Northern Illinois, but they have looked like crap all season long. So that's what Virginia Tech was basing their success on, or what voters were basing their success on, rather. And, they got exposed that this team may not be as good as we think they are. So there's a lot of that going on. And really, let's move on, because there's a lot that happened in the Big 12. We're going to hang around there for a while, because it was by far the craziest outcomes. And I did not see much of this game, because
neither did I.
This was one I just expected as I saw the scores. I'm like, we're going to have the good old shootout happening here. But only one team showed up for the shootout, and it wasn't the team I expected. Texas Tech 41, Oklahoma State 17.
When was the last time Texas Tech, Oklahoma State hit the under, first of all? When was the
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I am well aware that they hit the under on that one. Let's just say that. Only one team showed up, and Tech's defense, which looked like real garbage, especially against Ole Miss, they held Oklahoma State to 86. No, wait a second. It's 386 yards. I had a typo here, and they dominate the time of possession, which blows my mind for these two teams. 41 minutes and 17 seconds for Tech, 18 minutes 43 seconds for Okie State. And Bowman for Texas Tech, 35 for 46, 397 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And on the other side, DeMarcus Felton. And tell me if this sounds like a Oklahoma State quarterback line here. 12 for 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. What in the hell?
Yikes.
And both teams had 2 turnovers, so it wasn't like this was some Oklahoma State blew up by turnovers thing. They just flat out got beat.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no explanation here. After how incredibly sound on defense Oklahoma State looked last week against Boise State, definitely the presumed better team than Texas Tech, I'd say, across the board. It makes you wonder what exactly went into this. I don't know. Was the defensive game plan different, or was there an exposed? Maybe there was a weakness that got just utterly shredded. You know, maybe the offensive coordinator for Texas Tech spotted something. Because there's really no other explanation. Texas Tech is not this team that's out there beating juggernauts. Texas Tech is one of those teams that gets played down to the wire by North Texas every year, or that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's never.
And Coach GQ's constantly on the hot seat because Tech is always kind of 500, but they have one win that keeps them around, and here it is again.
Well, the hot seat is what keeps them so hot in general. No. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's the Big 12 at this point is just a fucking shit show outside of Oklahoma. It's just a shit show. Even the next game we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and we're going to get to Oklahoma too. But let's head to Texas because this is another one that shocked me. Not so much that Texas won, but in the fashion that it happened.
Yes.
Now, this one was because of turnovers. Because TCU coughed up the ball 4 times. I don't care how damn good you are, because they actually won yardage-wise. If we're looking at the yard points, they outgained Texas 372 to 367. But when you turn the ball over 4 times, it's hard to come back, especially when you're on the road, especially when Texas is looking for there. But Shane, is Texas back?
No, they're not. They're super not.
Yeah.
So TCU had a 3-point lead coming in from, it was like, I believe it was 10-13. So maybe Texas had the lead, but TCU came back. It was 16, I believe, to 10 TCU, and then TCU gave up 21 unanswered. And I remember where I was watching the game. The point when I realized the game was over for TCU is they were driving into Texas territory, and at the 40-yard line, their quarterback fumbles the ball, and you can see the look on his face. He's just like, I don't really know how that happened. You know, like he didn't necessarily understand that he fumbled the ball until it was too late. And I could sense then that TCU was playing this little, I don't know, maybe they were just trying to do too much with Sean Robinson or to give him the ball to do too much. But you could sense that TCU was being stubborn and sticking to a plan, and Texas was just kind of taking advantage of their miscues and their mistakes. I'm surprised to see the result. To be honest, I expected TCU to cover at least that spread, but Texas, I mean, they're not back. I just think the Big 12 is a shit show.
Yeah, and really, it's hard to judge how good or how bad TCU could be. They could still, because of the crazy-ass round-robin championship game format, they could still end up sneaking into the championship game and recover from this craziness. But, man, it looked terrible. And you know, Ellinger didn't look that great either. I mean, 22 for 32, 255 yards, and only 2 touchdowns. And Robinson, though, for TCU, just garbage. And this is why you need to make sure your quarterback is fully functional. You know, This is why Notre Dame did what they did, because it cost them here. 17 for 29, 197 yards, 1 touchdowns, but 2 picks.
There you go.
Now, let's talk about a game that nobody could really see. You were either following on Twitter or you did what I did, and you were sitting here searching around Twitch to see if anybody was filming their TV, which somebody was. Hope you didn't get banned from Twitch, sir. I will not sell you out. But Oklahoma charged $50 a pop for people to watch them escape Army in overtime, 28-21, in, oh my God, one of the craziest games I've watched via Twitter. Via illegal stream.
Yeah.
Because, all right, we got so much to talk about in this one. We're going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. The time of possession was absurd, even for a triple option to spread offense comparison. 44 minutes, 41 seconds for Army. They held the ball.
Yeah.
OU only ran 40 plays. Army ran 87.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Army was 13 for 21 on third downs. They had 21 third downs.
Hot damn.
4 for 5 on fourth, and they had a chance, folks, to win this game in regulation. They were driving down. They got off schedule. They had 3rd and long. They threw it. It got picked. Now Oklahoma is setting up. They have an easy field goal. Clock's running down. College kicker strikes. Field goal miss. Goes to overtime. OU gets a quick score. They get a good defensive play. Army has a 5-yard false start penalty, and they get off schedule. And they tried on 2nd and long, which this makes no sense to me. Because what they did on 2nd and long is they tried to do a tailback pass.
Yeah.
So, in overtime, you got to score. They were the second ones to possess the ball. You have 4 downs. Why not just go ahead, run your offense, try to get a couple extra yards, throw a counter option or something? But no, you pull out the Hail Mary tailback pass, and now you're 3rd and long. Now you're super fucked, and they just couldn't pull it off. Game ends up getting sealed with an interception in overtime, much like the Stanford game did.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, neither of us got to really watch this game except for on Twitter or what have you. But I said the same thing. I said this exact same thing on Twitter during the game. This game opened up. The spread was Oklahoma 31. Oklahoma by 31.
Oops. Be careful with those option teams, man.
That's why I said I laughed my ass off. Like, they're not even going to have time to score 31 points, much less win by 31. But, Army, I don't know what to make of this team, man. Army they were supposed to be, I guess, just the sacrificial lamb. I guess all the academies, because they've all struggled this year, right? With the rule change about the blocking, all the option teams have seemed to get off schedule. But it looks like maybe Army was the first to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because they definitely almost had the best win of their since World War II for themselves.
Pretty much, yeah, because that would have been a top 5 victory. That would have been absolutely insane. And well, I mean, we should mention here service academies real quick. I mean, Navy lost to SMU in overtime. Winless SMU. So lots of craziness happened. All right, we're going to quick hit the rest of these. Mississippi State, number 14, will no longer be 14 because we may have to talk about Kentucky being good. They're undefeated. But God, this game was ugly.
Yeah, Benny Snell's really good. And I forget Kentucky's quarterback name, but I know he's really, really improved. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of this game, but I definitely called this line. When Kentucky was a home dog at like +9, I was like, no, this is stupid.
Yeah. 300 yards for Kentucky, only 201 for Mississippi State. One of those SEC slugfests, just not pretty. No big turnover swing here, so Kentucky just straight up winning. I thought we were going to end up talking more about this game, but this game infuriated me for a couple reasons. But first, I want to at least say that I tried to tell Eddie. I tried to tell a lot of people. I felt like I was the only one on this.
What was that? Yep. I couldn't hear you over the sound of your wrongness.
28-17, Wisconsin wins this one, and it was a slugfest. The under was there until Iowa decides to give up the freaking awful last second touchdown. Those bastards. I was so mad when that happened. I was like, and then all of a sudden,
they scored.
Wait a second. That just screwed the under right there. That just screwed the under. And then Iowa, I don't know why, they decided to run like a 4-minute lateral play. You're down by 11 points. Just go the fuck home.
Yeah, just leave. Just stop and leave.
Yeah. So, try to tell y'all, don't listen to Eddie. Don't listen about that Iowa money line, and Eddie should know better than to take Iowa. I thought he learned his lessons from me, but apparently not.
Nope.
All right, so then we got Arizona State and Washington in the snoozer. Washington ends up winning this 27-20. Still not sold on Herm for this one, especially when you got a passing attack that goes 17 for 27 for a paltry 104 yards.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Arizona State did work on defense, though. That's really what happened.
They did, but I tell you what, Shane, I think I'm starting to sell. I was really high on Washington. I think I'm going to start selling some of my stock in that team right now.
I sold after week 2. Yeah, I was done. Arizona State had a chance here, and I had a pick for them, but they fell apart in the fourth quarter. They unraveled, so it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Jake Browning, 15 for 22, 202 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I mean, Washington's going to have to play Oregon, and Oregon's going to need themselves a big win. They shot themselves in the foot, but they showed that they could play. All right, folks, it is time. Let's get to Notre Dame. Notre Dame 56, Wake Forest 27. The book club is in session, and it looks to be here to stay. 25 for 34, 325 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 43 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Woo! Fan yourself, Shane. That was a performance.
That's how you throw the book at a team right there.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to have so many book puns going forward.
I mean, god damn. Wake Forest, I mean, it's like they were all just trimmed all the way down and made into a new book or two. It's good. It feels really good to see the offense execute the way they should have been this whole time. And I feel bad saying that because I think we all feel the same way about Brandon Wimbush that Brian Kelly does. The guy's 13-3 as a starter. The guy's gotten us this far, but he's really only one-dimensional. He's supposed to be a dual threat. So, I mean, what can you make of that? But now that Ian Book has established himself as a starter, let's just get that out of the way. If you guys still have questions, it's over, right? I mean, at this point, there's no argument.
Yeah, and I don't care if it's Wake. I mean, yes, it was Wake, but it's also just the simplicity of watching an actual RPO offense get to use, like you said in the preview, Shane, all 3 O's. It would be nice. Yes. We finally got to use all 3 of them. And what does that do? That spreads Wake out. That opened up the running game. Jafar Armstrong, career day, 8 carries. 8 carries, folks, for 98 yards, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns. The backups, the backups finally got playing time, and poor Sam Hartman just got absolutely murdered by this defense.
Destroyed. You know, and to say the defense before we even get into the nitty-gritty, just if you look at the snapshot, right, of Wake Forest's offensive stats, right, total yards 587, rushing yards 239, passing yards 248, total plays 88, time of possession 28 minutes. Would you think they lost?
No. And that's the crazy part, and I know there's a couple things where I've seen heartburn because some fans just can never be happy about things. And one of them was the fact that Notre Dame gave up a lot of yards. A lot of that was junk time yardage. But here's the thing. For the first half of that game, Notre Dame was 3-and-outing them pretty consistently. Yeah. And I want to pay attention to that red zone stat because they had 5 trips and only got 3 scores, which is impressive. Notre Dame, on the other hand, visits 7 times, and we're like, man, why are we having Book here in these weird packages? This doesn't make sense. Well, it works when he's running the whole offense. 7 for 7 with 7 touchdowns. The most efficient day I've seen Notre Dame have in the red zone, I don't know, since I can remember.
In recent memory. I can't imagine. I mean, I know last season they were incredibly red zone efficient. That was one of their strengths, but that was because they were running Wimbush whenever he wasn't throwing. But Ian Book just came in and basically said, like, oh, well, anything you can do, I can do better, you know? So, and he proved it.
Yeah. The only thing Book doesn't have, as opposed to Wimbush, is that potential for, you know, to be that video game cheat code type thing, to where Wimbush just makes ridiculous stuff happen. Book can't extend the play like Wimbush can. Book is not as fast as Wimbush. Wimbush even has a stronger arm, but it doesn't make sense if you could throw a football over the mountains over there if you're not getting anywhere close to your receiver. And Book showed that good, quick reads, which has improved dramatically from the last time he started against North Carolina. He was making great reads. He was looking people off. He only really made a couple mental errors, and it just goes to show that if you're able to do that and put it all together, you're going to look like a freaking Heisman contender because he was putting up ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, he looked ridiculous. He was absolutely torching the defense. And I mean, it was what I believe, like you could sense it. Really, the first couple of drives, and that was really the whole thing, right? Is the first 2 drives sputtered, right? So people were, well, I missed the opening drive touchdown. At least we were getting that. And I was like, you guys all have no idea how stupid you sound because it's very evident. It was incredibly evident from the first couple of plays that the offensive players in general, the offensive line, the wide receivers, they all had a little bit of a pep in their step, especially Alize Mack, but it's because he was clearly going to be featured in the game plan. But like,
was he ever?
Yeah, dude, he was all over the place. But you could tell that it was a revitalization a little bit for the offense to get Ian Book in at quarterback. They all clearly trust him. They're all behind him, and that's really what you'd want to see from this team. So, I mean, I don't care if they sputter every game if they're going to put up 56. I don't give a shit.
Oh, and to be fair, the sputtering, I don't lay that on his feet. The first 2 drives featured one It was an ineligible player downfield where somebody just got really
Bars.
Bars got really excited on that on an RPO, or it wasn't even an RPO. Maybe it was a mix up in a play call because it was just a straight up pass, and because it was 3rd and long, and he's like 8 yards downfield. He almost went longer than the pass did. And then you have a fumble off of what looked like a potential scary injury for Michael Young. Fortunately, he was okay. But you have all that happen, and then the defense steps up. But, I don't lay those at the feet of Book. And when you have that going on, it's like, look, I would rather have my quarterback didn't make the mental mistakes to cost this team, and I think we're going to be okay. And now all of a sudden, the rest of the game, it just flows easy. And it was... Wake did not know what hit them. It looked very much like our sim, which shocked the hell out of me.
Which is awesome. So awesome.
But yeah, it was great. And this is Notre Dame for the first time, I think, since the Michigan game, looked like a top 10 team.
Yes.
And the big part was the other part of heartburn this fan base has had is, why can't they just close out games strong? Why does it have to be this one possession, I'm getting irritated type stuff? There was none of that here. Notre Dame continued to go. And I even looked, I was like, Notre Dame starts strong. I'm like, man, I'm feeling kind of, spicy here. And then I saw Notre Dame was favored in the second half by 2. I was like, but I don't know. I'm going to stay away from it because maybe they just slow down. Maybe they just don't do anything. And then Wake ends up with a bunch of junk touchdowns and quote unquote wins the second half. I should have just gone for it. We got to see Phil Dracovic in this game, folks.
Yeah, we got to see Phil Dracovic make an awesome Manning face. That was so much fun.
That was a great capture. That's gonna. I need to put that on our Facebook page.
Very much too. I pinned it to my profile.
Yeah, to be the new image there. But he had one long bomb downfield where I think that's what drew the Manning face because he was looking for PI.
It was. He was like, "Where's my PI? Come on!" It's like it's 56 points. You're not getting any more. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like you got your one shot. Wake's probably pissed that you took it. Now go hand the ball off and let's go home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and how did you feel? I'm interested, Shane. How do you feel that Wimbush didn't get the cleanup time? Good call, but the announcers were making a lot of it that it was a good call by Kelly. But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, the announcers did the whole angle of like, well, you got to respect the guy. Like, don't insult him. It's like, motherfucker, you play quarterback for Notre Dame. Like, you're not insulted if you get to play. How about that? But first of all, but no, the one thing I'll say I didn't like is they really kept driving home the solo isolated him being looking sad shots. They really tried to put in the narrative as like, I don't know, like I'm just standing over here and Brandon Wimbush is over on the sideline surrounded by nobody, like not really being part of the team. And maybe that's true. If that's true, then that's maybe not concerned, but like I can see why he would. This is the first time he's pulled. Like I understand the attitude adjustment needs to happen. It's never easy to watch somebody kick ass doing the job that they're replacing you to do, but at this point, you have to be okay with it, man. Like you got to be okay with it. Imagine the incredible advantage you would have to have your backup quarterback be fucking Brandon Wimbush. Are you kidding?
Right. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of, theories. Well, maybe he didn't play just, to see what happens. Now he can transfer because now he won't lose a year of eligibility. That's going to be a storyline. And then if BK plays him in 5 games, it's going to be, well, BK screwed him over and, cost him a year of eligibility. There's going to be a whole lot of bullshit storylines, but I don't really think the playing him, or rather not playing him at the end and putting Dracovic in instead, was a sign of respect. It was more of a sign of, I'm putting in all my 2s, literally all of them, including the line. So Wimbush is 1B. I don't want 1B getting hurt because
why get hurt?
We may need him for Stanford. That's more the way I see it. And also, you make a good point about, it's hard to see somebody kick ass at the job you had, because BK has been saying all week, I expect them both to play, but I think he also expected to not have Book light it up because you don't set the hot hand. You just don't do that either. So BK managed it as well as he could, so now he's got to make sure that he manages the locker room situation. I said before this, he went all in this QB situation because you're undefeated, but you know something stinks in the offense, and he's making sure he's not repeating the same mistakes in 2016. And that, more than anything, is huge because he couldn't make a decision. He couldn't figure out whether it was Kaiser or Zaire, even though the answer was fucking obvious.
Yeah.
This time, he tried. He tried a lot. He tried to let Wimbush play through it. It just wasn't working out. So he's like, I got Wake, and now I got Stanford and Virginia Tech coming up. I got to know what my offense can do.
Yeah.
I can't be doing this blue zone bullshit with Book the whole time. So now it's clear, and now, it looked like what we had been told the Chip Long offense was going to be. It finally looked like that's what the Chip Long offense was. And I tell you what, that's what I've been waiting to see for a long time. It sucks that Wimbush can do it. I feel for him on a human level. I think he handled things about as well as he could. It's really hard to be under that kind of spotlight when the other guy's just lighting it up. And he's scoring, what was it, like 5 total TDs I think we had when we were talking about the rushing plus passing. So that's rough, man. So let's just see how he bounces back because they're going to need him. They're going to need him.
Let me say this much: you guys can all put the is Brian Kelly going to screw Brandon Wimbush bullshit to bed. He redshirted in 2016. Okay, so his whole redshirt year thing that's done. So him not playing past 4 games this year doesn't do shit. His eligibility
that won't stop it.
It won't change anything. So he has to hold out the year and decide to transfer, or he can decide to transfer whenever. But that year's going to count. Doesn't matter.
Right.
So he still got 4 for 5 or 4 in 5, and he redshirted 1 already. Anyway, but yeah, no, I think at this point Brian Kelly has to be all in. I think at this point you cannot have the repeat of 2015. You just basically have to let it be what it is, and it's clear. The writing is not even on the wall; it's all up in every book, all over in the library. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty plain to see.
Yeah, because 700 plus yards of offensive production. Even what we were saying repeatedly through that crazy sim, this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to happen. This is kind of insane to think about. The only thing in that sim that didn't happen was Wimbush playing. We actually joked about putting Dracovic in, and Shane talked me out of it. I would have done it, but yeah, we could have done that. It was great to watch, and there's always going to be people that aren't happy with the way BK handles things. As I was watching the live presser, and there was the majority of the people, because it was like in Periscope basically, because I joined it through Twitter, and a lot of the comments were like, BK shouldn't have done this. Wimbush is undefeated. How can you be so disloyal to the quarterback?
You're not undefeated.
And people that were arguing was like, did you watch the game? And I'm just laughing. I'm like, I'm not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
It's pointless.
Because it's just insane. It's clear that BK made the right decision. It's always one of those things. It's like going for it on 4th down in a risky situation. You're a genius when it works. You're an idiot if it blows up in your face. Right. So right now, BK, you got to tip your hat. He's got the genius right now. It worked out very, very well. So, and coming up against Stanford, the offense needs to look like this. This is exactly what the offense needed to look like. So it makes me a lot more excited. I'm still going to be nervous as all get out because it's going to be a tough game. And, Stanford always plays Notre Dame tough. They're a physical team. And thankfully, Notre Dame got to rest their starters while Stanford had to play overtime on the road. So that's nice. So both teams coming off road games. One had a much, much easier time. And you know what? You got to feel good about going into Stanford right now.
Yeah, I think at this point I feel pretty confident. I feel pretty good. I wouldn't say that Notre Dame's going to blow them out by any stretch because it's Stanford, and that's never happened ever. But I will say that there's something about how this trajectory now shifts so starkly from what it was. Like if they were trending towards losing to Stanford by like 10, essentially. Just because of offensive incompetence. Because when you have a team like Stanford that can just get that one big play, which they always fucking get, now it feels like Notre Dame is prepared to respond and make them pay on equal footing. And I feel like that alone gives Notre Dame an edge because, I'm sorry, I don't think the two defenses even compare. I think Notre Dame's defense is going to destroy Stanford's offense.
Absolutely. Oregon was physically dominating Stanford up front for most of that game. And it was once the wheels came off, they got worn down. And Notre Dame has shown that this defense doesn't wear down. Watching the twos play, watching the twos still keep pressure up, watching them play aggressive defense, letting the linebackers finally get rest. We can put that storyline the hell to bed now. Cody and Tranquil got to sit back and relax for a little bit.
Yep.
This could not have set up better for the Irish. So, I mean, look, I know we've defended BK a lot before on the show, but we've also been pretty critical and realistic as well. Others have been more critical than us, and even responding to chats on the show before we've seen it. And I hope people can tip their hat at least on this one. Like, not saying that he's coach of the year or anything, but this was a ballsy move. It was a ballsy move. And if it backfired, we could have a much different tone to this conversation. It would be, instead the storyline isn't, well, he had to do something. It's, look, maybe you had to do something, but you didn't have anything to go to.
Yeah.
The storyline could have been so much different, and now you're talking about a coach that screwed an undefeated season up, and now you're spinning around against Stanford coming into town, and you're just hoping that the season looks halfway decent at this point. Not so much anymore. It's totally different now, and it's great to see.
Yeah, if that confidence that you're apprehensive about embracing, just go ahead and do that. Just let it ride.
Yeah, you might as well let it ride. I mean, it's a long season, but when they play this good, you just got to go for it. And also, we need to even mention, even special teams look good. We had a punt return in this game.
We did have a punt return, a really good punt return by Chris Fink that almost went to the house.
I thought it was going to. And I tell you what, drives are really easy when they start inside your own 10.
Michael Young, man. Jeez, he looked good.
Yeah, Michael Young looked good. Fink looked good. No kickoffs out of bounds.
Yes, a huge one. I don't know what they did, but they really drilled it home. Look, I'm a proponent of the never giving up on a player just because they've had a couple mistakes. Like a couple of bad kickoffs does not a player's career make.
Correct.
So I'm glad that they stuck with him and didn't put all that extra workload on Justin Yoon instead.
Right. Yeah. And so I mean, lots of things to be happy about, lots of stuff to be confident about. And folks, I really hope that you come back because I am absolutely pumped for the preview and the sim.
I cannot wait to sim that game.
I've already had a few people ask me, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? So, folks, come on I'm going to take some time to do the little self-promotion here. Twitch.tv/Her Loyal Sons. If you get a follow, you'll get an email alert. But we aim for Thursday nights at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. And that is in the PM, folks. We're not going to do this in the morning. We both got day jobs. But come along. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll cover some headlines. We're going to go super quick through them because I know we're just going to want to get right to it. But yes, join us. It'll be a lot of fun. And until next time, folks, make sure you do that. And folks that listen to this podcast, don't think we don't love you too. That'll be available for you on Friday. And subscribe over on Apple Podcasts, wherever we get your podcasts. We're on Podbean. You can always find us at our home at herloyalsons.com. Join us in Discord. That is our live chat channel, herloyalsons.com/Discord. Email the show, podcast@herloyalsons.com. Follow me at NDTech, Shane at Superman TD Jesus. Until next time, y'all, go Irish, beat trees. Have a good one.